Today I'm talking to a woman whose acting career started in the 1980s, and she's been on iconic soapies like Dallas and Falcon Crest. She's been in a number of other TV series and lots of movies before moving to Babylon 5, which is where most of you probably know her from as Ivanova. Welcome, Claudia Christian.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm wearing my Christmas shirt.
Oh, yes, yes, very bright and colourful. When did you know you were going to take up acting?
Oh, gosh. When I was a kid, I had three older brothers, and so I was constantly vying for just to be heard, basically. So the first time I did a play when I was about 5 years old, I realized that I was garnering a modicum of attention, and people were listening to me when I was on stage and talking. So I think that kind of lit the fire. And after that, I just really enjoyed being involved with theater school. And eventually my father was transferred to Southern California, and I was convinced it was because I was supposed to be on television. So typical childhood confidence that luckily for me paid off.
Well, that's a great beginning. And confidence is one of those essential ingredients, I think.
I still can't believe I moved out of the house at 17 years old, filled up my car, and moved to Los Angeles alone. I still can't believe I did it. So the confidence played a big part in that, thank God.
Yes. You were focusing on movies when you were offered the role in Babylon 5. Did you experience a culture shock when you moved into science fiction and into TV work?
I started on television work. Well, I started out in theater, moved to television, and then got my first film when I was 19, I think. The progression normally in those days, in the 80s, was that you would stick to film if you started a feature film career. And after I did Clean and Sober, which was a studio picture, I didn't have a large part, but it was a very prestigious film. My agents were planning a feature career for me, and then I was offered the role of Babylon 5, and they basically said, it'll never last because it's not Star Trek, so just go ahead and do it, honey, and don't worry about it. And 4 years and 2 movies later, yes, it was shocking because prior to that I had been recognized vaguely. Oh, you look like you're in television, or oh, I saw you in this Danielle movie or something like that. But after I became aware of the passionate loyalty of science fiction fans, my life most definitely changed. And it was incredibly impressive to me. Their shocking loyalty and the way they stand behind shows and behind the characters that they love and the actors and actresses that they love.
Yeah, it's a different culture, isn't it?
It is a different culture, but it's a unique culture in that. Sorry, my phone's ringing. Sorry.
That's okay.
I would say the interesting thing to me is that science fiction fans they're very unique, but they're the same around the world, which is interesting. They really are the same every country I go to. And then once again, I'm always impressed with the fact that they show their kids the shows, and now there's a new generation of Babylon 5 fans, and thanks to the advent of DVDs, and it's amazing. It just doesn't stop. And we're having our 20-year anniversary in March. We're doing a show in Arizona. The majority of the remainder of the cast is going to be there. And when they said, "Oh, you're invited to the 20-year reunion," I almost fell off my chair. Has it really been 20 years? Yeah, 1993. Amazing.
Yes, yes. You know what my first memory of Babylon 5 was? My son was a tiny baby, and some friends got a bootleg copy of the pilot from the US, and we were watching it in a lecture theatre at the University of Tasmania. A whole, like, hundreds of people had got together to watch this pilot show, as well as a few other things that they'd got, like Deep Space Nine, I think, a few other things. And so my tiny baby son, when he was old enough in primary school, we used to have fortnightly sci-fi shows at our place, and we were watching the DVDs and introducing them to the next generation, some friends with kids as well. It was great.
Yeah, it's amazing. And now the kids are 20. or older. I know, it's incredible.
Mm. What were some of the cultural challenges you faced working in science fiction and relating to the fans?
Some of the cultural changes? What do you mean?
Well, you've already mentioned that the loyalty that sci-fi fans show to their shows and their actors is it's stronger, it's more evident than maybe in a mainstream show. Like, do you see that there is a cultural difference in the geek world?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you don't see a lot of conventions for soap operas, or I mean, I suppose you do. I guess there are. I mean, there's conventions for everything, scrapbooking, romance novels. But you know what I mean. It's fantasy, horror, science fiction. These are genres that really attract a certain type of person, and that type of person is very, I don't want to say obsessed, but they're very into, and they care very much about the show and the characters. They enjoy other people who enjoy the same thing, so they have their little talk groups and they travel together to go to these big conventions. And I don't think there's really anything else like it in any other genre. I can't really think about. I mean, sports people are sports fanatics. I mean, sci-fi people are a breed of their own, and they usually are of a higher intelligence. I find they are very thoughtful. They're very respectful. I've had very few bad experiences with sci-fi fans. Very few, considering that I've been traveling around for 20 years all over the world. I think that the majority of the people are really good people, very nice. I mean, I've made friends over the years. I've kept in contact with people. I don't feel, people are always saying, I can't believe you have Claudia Con in your own home, your personal home. How can you, why would you let strangers into your home? And I want to say to them, if anyone's going to have my back, it's going to be a sci-fi fan. They're usually not going to be the aggressive one towards me. They're going to be the ones protecting me. So I don't feel funny at all inviting strangers into my home. And I don't feel like they're strangers, because a lot of these people I've been in personal contact with for years. I've developed friendships, relationships. I keep in contact with people, and especially now that I'm doing work with addicts, I have a plethora of emails every single morning that I wake up to, people that I've encouraged to go to the Sinclair method, people that I've encouraged to talk about their addiction. And so it's like I have now another group of friends, which I have the sci-fi friends and I have the addict friends, and it's all really trickled down from that one job, that one thought. Even though in my career of almost 50 films and thousands of hours of television, I've only done a couple of sci-fi things: Starhyke, Space Rangers, The Hidden is considered sci-fi, and Babylon 5. So, 4 or 5 jobs, the Highlander genre, whatever. But I mean, less than a handful of jobs have been genre, and yet I'm mostly known in that subgroup as a genre, and that's fine with me.
Yes. Well, it's fun with the fans too. I have a number of questions here from fans, and I've kind of mixed them in with my own questions as we go. Jody asks, how did you feel about changes during the series, such as Bruce Boxleitner taking over as the captain in season 2?
Well, I think anyone who's read my book will understand that I kind of welcomed that change. Nothing against Michael O'Hare, God rest his soul. He was a great man, but Bruce just got along better with everybody, and he was into the cast, into the sense of humor and the playfulness of the cast and the pranks and everything. We were a set full of hijinks. We were definitely not a cerebral group, except when we had political discussions. But we enjoyed having fun, and Bruce fit in perfectly with that. The rest of the changes, quite often people just once again they just didn't fit in, and other actors and actresses chose to leave the show because they didn't think they were being utilized enough, or they didn't want to be typecast in their own minds, or if they weren't happy on the show. So, you know, that's to each his own. I happen to have had a wonderful experience at the time I was there. I have nothing but fond memories. But like I said, everyone was different. So that's, you just dealt with the changes when they came along.
Yes, yes. Brendan Podger asks, what is your favourite line? And he adds, you got all the good ones, or you put over all your kick-ass lines best anyway.
I did have a lot of great ones. I think some of the best dialogue was for Londo and Dakar. They had incredible speeches, but I had a lot of good one-offers. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed when it comes to a particular line, I think the Death Incarnate speech was probably my favorite speech in the entire series. When, you know, who am I? I'm Susan Ivanova. You know, God sent me, that whole thing. That was just so melodramatic. I was never given those big hero speeches. I was given those zingers. And I love the Drazi episode, the Purple Green, because it was the first time I was given anything funny to do. And I think anyone who's met me knows that I always rely on humor for just about everything. So that was fun when Ivanova started to relax and become more comedic.
I think in one of the novels there was an introduction to it written saying that episode, the Purple and the Green, was supposed to play out differently, but you'd actually broken your leg in real life, so they did it differently.
I did. I was fooling around in my backyard doing ballet leaps, and I landed incorrectly, and I broke my foot in 3 places, my ankle, and I called up John Copeland, the producer, that night when I got back from the hospital on Demerol, and said, "There's a little problem here." So they were supposed to shoot these scenes the next day. So they had everything ready when I got there. They had ice and they had a chair to put my foot up on. And Joe had quickly rewritten the scenes that I was sitting. And then later on in that particular episode, or it might have been the next one, we recreated the actual break. And that was when the stuntman fell right next to my real broken foot, which anyone who's had a broken bone will know that if anyone lands even remotely close to that broken bone or comes near it, you're petrified. And this guy had to land right next to my broken foot. Oh, I just squirmed thinking about it. But yeah, we had to incorporate that. And also Jerry Doyle's broken shoulder had to be incorporated into the series.
Oh, I didn't pick up that he had a broken shoulder in real life.
Yes. Yeah, he was doing a stunt, I think, at Babylon 5. Or basketball. It was one of the two. Maybe he was playing basketball. I can't remember. But yeah, he was playing for a while, I think, on the show. I had a futuristic cane, and I had a futuristic crutches. The prop guy had a good time making me a little futuristic-looking accoutrement for my broken foot.
I remember the first time I watched it through, I didn't know if you'd had... I didn't know for sure that you'd broken your foot, but as the scenes played out and over the next few episodes as well, you still had the cast, and it's like, oh, that's for real.
Yeah, that's true.
Brendan Podger also says, watching your character open up was amazing. Did you have any idea of how deep your character would be early on?
Absolutely not. We were given a couple of lines in, we never really saw the Bible of the show, but we were given a kind of half-page description of our character. And I sometimes bring that to conventions and read it because it is inconsistent with what we actually ended up doing. The original idea for Ivanova, insofar as who was alive or dead in her life, you know, there's no mention of, I didn't think Judaism was mentioned in the Bible that I received, and Ivanova or Ivanova is not a Jewish name, so that wasn't apparent. It's more like Smith or Jones in Russia. So I think that wasn't mentioned. The bisexuality obviously wasn't mentioned. That was a complete surprise. I opened up the script, like, oh! And that was after I'd asked Joe. I said, you know, there was a fellow that was supposed to be my ex-boyfriend on the show, and I got kind of ticked off, and I said to Joe, I said, how would she have time to date? She's the youngest lieutenant commander in history, practically. So, you know, ridiculous that you're giving me all these boyfriends. What did she, shag herself through the universe? It's ridiculous. And I don't like that at all. So I said, if you're going to give me a lover, make it an alien or a woman. I was joking. I really was joking. In the back of my mind, I thought, wow, Jakar and Ivanova. But then lo and behold, a couple of trips later, I got it, and I'm gay. It was funny that way. You get surprises on occasion opening the scripts. I think Joe, he has to change a lot of things. You have to understand. I mean, you have a 5-year plan in your head, and then all of a sudden you fire the first commander or captain, and then Natalia leaves the show because she wasn't happy. Then all of a sudden you're scrambling. So he had a lot of scrambling to do throughout those 5 years, I'm sure.
Mm. Yes, and a lot of people have commented on your Ivanova's relationship with Talia, because at the time it was very subtle. It was almost like, is this what it seems to be implying or not? And now in hindsight, people look back and it's like, wow, this is so good because it was there, even if it was subtext.
I think Joe did this because there was a lot of kids watching Babylon 5, and also, Deep Space Nine jumped on the bandwagon and had a kiss between two women, and it was all at the same time. And I just thought that the way he wrote our relationship was just more elegant. It just because you choose what you wanted to believe. Did she spend the night as friends, or did something happen? I mean, I think the subtext was definitely there, and that made a lot of gay and lesbian people very happy. And I was happy that they identify these characters and that we were representing them in a classy way. And it was beautifully written. It was nothing. You didn't have to pound anybody over the head with it. You could choose to believe what you want to believe.
One of the things I liked was that it carried on over a number of episodes, because the thing with Deep Space Nine is that was just a one-off episode. It was clearly we are going to challenge the norm and then move on.
Yeah, I think it was just that little exploitation thing. It's ratings. I think ours was more subtle. Mm-hmm. But then again, I confessed.
Sheldon Whitaker says, I have heard that J. Michael Straczynski was a great listener around the set of B5, garnering inspiration wherever it came from. And not that you are a bisexual Jewish latent telepath, but how much of you did he put into Susan Ivanova?
Hi, Sheldon. I know Sheldon very how much of Susan Ivanova? I think that Joe definitely incorporated my sense of humor a little bit. I'm not quite caustic and sardonic as Ivanova, but I certainly, like I said earlier, rely on humor in a lot of situations, social or work situations. I think, there were little things like the wearing of one earring. I lost a brother. Ivanova lost a brother. I think, just there were just some subtle things, but she certainly lightened up over the years, and that I think was a direct result of just observing me on the set, because I definitely was not a terribly serious person for those years.
Yes. I know you've mentioned this in your book. Would you be prepared, because the hot topic whenever Babylon 5 comes up is still, you left the series. Would you be prepared to give us a short version of what happened, about how you left, and then people can read the book for the longer version?
Yes, they can. It's all in the book. The condensed version is simply that the series ended. We shot the very last episode. We did not have the money to do the 5th season. I accepted a movie role. We then got the money to do the 5th season. I would have had to have the first 4 episodes off of Babylon 5. Joe said that he would give them to me off, but he couldn't give that to me in writing. The production company for the film could not accept me as the lead of a film without that in writing. So I had already made a contractual obligation to star in that movie, and I was the star of the movie, and I was committed to doing that movie. I would have ruined my relationship with that studio for the rest of my life had I pulled out. They already started, doing publicity and everything based on me starring in it, and I needed it in writing. And Joe could not give it in writing because TNT, who was supplying the funding for the 5th season, needed in writing that I would be doing all 20 episodes. Joe was going to just write me out of those episodes privately, but I couldn't take that at face value because USA Cable wouldn't accept that. They said, no, we need to know that you are off of that series for this amount of time, and we need that in writing. If you accept to go back to Babylon 5, we need it in writing that you're off from October 25th to January 1st, whatever the time was. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't get that from TNT, and I couldn't get it from Joe, so I had to move on.
Yes, the fans would really love it if sci-fi series could start with a bit more of a commitment so that people can, the characters, the actors can be committed to the series and don't have to look for work elsewhere just in case they end up, not being able to pay their bills.
Yeah, I mean, if the thing was, there was kind of the party is over feeling, I mean, we shot the last episode, we told the story, he scrunched up the 4th and 5th season into one season, and, frankly, had relationships not broken down, I certainly could have done what Tracy did. She did 8 episodes. I could have easily come in and done that. It was just a matter of egos and contentious relationships at that point. There was a lot of anger. My agent, I was fired by the time I got back from Birmingham, from England. I was actually given notice that I was not allowed back to Babylon 5. So I did not quit. I was fired, technically. So, and that was just a breakdown of relationships between managers and agents and producers and writers. And, it was unfortunate that it happened. And to tell you the truth, based on fan feedback, the 5th season wasn't that great. So I left when the party was still good. So,
yes.
I had a great run. I was blessed to play an incredible character. It was beautifully written. I have seen the world thanks to Babylon 5 twice over. I've met some amazing people. I have absolutely no regrets. And I think that, life is what it's supposed to be, and perhaps I was not meant to be this season, or whatever you can say. It just didn't work out that way, and you can't go back. But I can certainly go back and be very grateful for that job and for my work.
Yeah, and since working on Babylon 5, you were heavily involved in Starhyke, not just you had a lead role, Belinda Blowhard, but you were actually working behind the scenes, I think, as a director as well sometimes. What can you tell us about that show and working with that cast and crew?
Andrew Diamond saved my life, actually. I was in a very bad place. It was in my ping-ponging around during my drinking problem. And Andrew, and I wasn't working. I was which was bad. I'd go through long periods of sobriety and wait for that job. And then, of course, when I would fall off the wagon, and it was just a dreadful merry-go-round I was on. And I happened to be in one of my long periods of sobriety, and I said and Andrew called, and I said, and he said, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "I'm just, I'm losing my house. I have no work. This is horrible. I'm in a really bad place." And he said, "Well, can I come over and be in this low-budget sci-fi thing I'm doing?" I said, "Absolutely." And he said, "Character's name is Belinda Blowhard." I went, "Right, I'm on the next plane." So in that sense, he really gave me something to look forward to. I'd always wanted to live in England. I was looking forward to selling my house and starting my life over again over there. So the timing was great. The cast was extraordinarily funny. Jeremy Bullock is just one of my favorite people in the universe. Rachel Grant was hilarious. Sue Ann Vaughn. I mean, everybody in the show was just sweet, funny, nice. Everyone was chipping in and helping. We were all making light of the situation. It was, it was a shoestring budget, essentially. Andrew, at one point, was nice enough. There was a lot of stuff going on, CGI shots and this shot, and we had this big studio with all the sets there, and we were shooting outside of Bristol. It was winter time, cold. It was just a really interesting. I was living in a small village called Winterbourne Down, where the postman would come and fill up my fireplace with wood. My door was always open. People would come in and out, leave things. It was just hilarious. It was so sweet. There were 8 churches in my small village. It was just incredible. Very nice people. I had a really good experience. And one day there was a bunch of scenes that needed to be shot. And one of the actresses, it was kind of an intimate scene, and I think there was some lingerie involved or something. And she just didn't feel comfortable. And so I stepped in and I said, "Well, why don't I direct the scene?" And Andrew said, "That's great." And next thing you know, I was directing a bunch of scenes with the actors while he would go do the technical CGI scenes. stuff that I would never be able to set up. I would be on the same, across the way on a different set, shooting a scene with some actors. We had 2 crews going, A and B, and it was a great experience. I'm very grateful for Andrew to let me do that. It was very generous of him.
And it sounded like it was fun, like it was a sci-fi kind of spoof show.
Yeah, Carry On in Space. Yeah, it was goofy and funny and silly, and we took it to the extreme in some scenes, and it was just fun. A really great group of people. Jonathan Brown and Andrew Diamond are dynamite guys, and I would work for them any day.
Terrific. Kevin Powell asks, what were you most nervous about when you started voice acting?
I was never nervous about voice acting. It did cross my mind at one point that I never took any lessons, and you always hear about people taking lessons in voiceover classes and stuff. I never did that. I was with a theatrical agent for years, and one day they said, you've got a great voice. Why don't you join our voiceover department? And that was it. I started going on auditions and started booking jobs. Most of the time in the beginning, it was my biggest gig was I was a Jaguar for years, and that was the best gig I've ever had in my life, bar none. It was the easiest, most lucrative job I ever had. It was fantastic. And then when I got Atlantis for Disney, which, hey, there's help. The cat character. I was booked on that, and that was very exciting because I thought, wow, this is part of history. I mean, a Disney film, what could be more exciting? So that was a very exciting job. And then from then, I started to become sort of the game girl. And I don't play games. I don't know how to play games. I don't own a Sony PlayStation or any of that stuff. But suddenly I was being booked in all of these games. So that's my game career. And now I've done Skyrim and Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars, I've done Shrek. I do voice matches, I do Jennifer Saunders and Shrek. I've just done a ton of games. And a lot of people ask me, by the way, what games have you been in? There's a great thing called IMDb. And you just punch in IMDb, and then you put in Claudia Christian, and it'll show you a list of every job I've ever done, pretty much, including the games. And it'll tell you the year, the producers, everything. All that information is there. So whenever people ask me that, it's much easier just to put IMDb, because my memory, gone. They all blend in to be the same thing, same game.
Yes. What are some of the key differences between working as a voice actor and working as a screen actor?
It's just a matter of using your voice to portray the entire role and emotion. But you don't want to go over the top, because nowadays games like natural performances. So, the difference is you don't have to look good. You don't have to get dressed up to go to an audition. You don't have to have makeup on. That's the difference. It's a much easier job in my mind. And it's fast. You don't have to light the thing. You don't have to sit around waiting. You just go bam, 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 bam. You're done.
I've been talking to a few people who are actually working in the industry, and apparently there are 2 different ways that voiceovers and animations can work. One is that people do it line by line in a sound room on their own, and the other is that the cast gets together and they do it together. What's been your experience?
I've only done, I've really only done jobs on my own. I've never done motion capture, which is basically doing the entire movie just wearing a suit, and they animate you. But you're acting, you're moving, you're physically moving. I've never done mocap, and I've never done a job where the other actors are in the room. The only one I've done, actually there is one that was, I think it was called Itsy Bitsy Spider or something like that. I played a lion or a turtle or something, I don't know. And all of us animals were in the same room at the same time. We had some group scenes where we had to talk over each other. But that's really the only time I've ever worked with other actors.
Okay.
And the animation stuff I do on my part alone. And those are the audio series I do.
So what's that like? I mean, is it harder for you to work in isolation as opposed to working as you have done on the screen with the other people that you can react to?
No, I don't find voiceover work challenging at all. I think it's one of the easiest jobs in the world. I mean, you know, sometimes some directors will feed the line prior to you, so that you get into the swing of the scene. But most of the time, you go in and there's a teleprompter, and you just read your line 3 different ways. And if they don't like those 3 different ways, they say, "Oh, well, can you be angrier or whatever?" And a couple hours later, you're done. Easy peasy.
Great. Jeremy Hamilton asks, of all the sci-fi shows on TV at the moment, which one would you like to be starring in?
Jeremy, I have to be honest, I don't watch television. I watch Game of Thrones, and that's about it. In my life, I've seen The Sopranos and Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad. I mean, really, I don't watch TV. I mean, if I could be in a fantasy, I'd be in Game of Thrones. It's my favorite show. I've never seen Battlestar Galactica. I've never seen Fringe. I've never seen X-Files. I've never seen Star Trek. I've never seen anything like that. I was raised without television as a kid, so it just never got into my psyche to watch TV. It's only when a friend will say, "You have to watch Breaking Bad now," and then 25 people tell me that. So I watched it, and I was addicted, and I stayed up till 4 in the morning watching episode after episode after episode. And the only other thing I watch is the IB channel, which is basically people getting stuffed into trunks and killed and shot, and it's horrible. And I don't know why I watch it. I think it's so that I maybe remind myself to be more careful in real life, or so I can yell at the screen, "Don't get in the trunk! Don't get in the trunk! If you get in the trunk, it's over!" I don't know. That's when I can't sleep. I get up and I watch Murder and Mayhem. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe I'm just weird, but yeah, those are the only 2 things I've watched. I did watch Game of Thrones season 1 and 2 about 9,000 times. I showed it to my father when I was in London. I made him watch all 10 episodes with me. I showed it to my friend, made her watch them all with me. Watched them on the airplane. I'm weird like that. So to answer your question, Jeremy, I don't know. I hear that there's like a sci-fi series out there. In fact, I sold my house to David Boreanaz. Wasn't he in a bunch of, I don't know, Buffy or Angel, or aren't those sci-fi series too? And I have no idea. I've never seen them. I go to conventions and I'll make friends with somebody, and people will say, "Don't you know who that is?" And I'll say, "No." I have to look at their 8x10s to see what shows they were in. I just don't know. I'm bad at that, but I can tell you what good books to read.
Have you read Game of Thrones?
Actually, one of my co-stars from Starhyke, Simon Lewis, gave me the last book, and then I realized I can't finish reading it because then I'll know what happens in the 6th season, which doesn't, that probably isn't good because each book is the whole one season is one book. So I have to go back, but now that I've seen season 1 and 2, why don't I go back and read them? I do love the books. I do love the book, but no, I have not read the whole series.
Actually, the first 2 books are 1 season each, and the 3rd book's going to be 2 seasons, and it gets bigger. Yeah. Well, that's a big project for you to follow the books. Are there any other books that you've been reading?
I've read all of C.J. Sampson's books. He writes about the historical fiction based at the time of Henry VIII, Elizabethan murder mysteries. He's a hunchback dwarf, pretty much, who is a detective-y kind of character. The writer, C.J. Sampson, was a history student, but also a lawyer. So it's extremely accurate, apparently. They're beautifully written. I love Neil Gaiman. I read all of his stuff. Right now I'm reading a lot of nonfiction. I'm reading Christopher Columbus's 4 Voyages, and I'm reading a biography on Peter the Great. I'm reading, I have a very incomplete education, so sometimes I feel guilty about reading fiction for too long. So then I get all of my nonfiction books out that I haven't read, and I start piling through the biographies and autobiographies and, all the presidential books and history books. I have the Mayflower as well, which I usually have about 10 books going at one time. So just so I feel like I'm educating myself a little bit.
You've co-written an autobiography called Babylon Confidential. What was sharing your life story like for you?
Well, I had to do this, and it's sort of, I feel an affinity towards people coming out of the closet with their sexuality. Coming out of the closet as an addict is not a fun thing to do. Addiction, especially alcoholism, is so tinged with moral weakness or lack of discipline, or you're a bad person, or there's all this preconceived notions about why people become alcoholics or addicts. And I'm a very strong person, a very disciplined person, and I feel I am a bit of a control freak. And so for me to have a drinking problem, it was an extraordinary shock. On the other hand, I was genetically predisposed to become, both of my grandfathers were drinkers, one of which was just like me, a binge drinker. Months of sobriety, fall off the wagon. Months of sobriety, fall off the wagon. I didn't develop alcoholism until my late 30s, and it was a very embarrassing thing for me. It was something that I obviously didn't want to face, and I was hiding, and I thought maybe just because I was going through a hard time, and I was losing my house, and I had bad relationships, and I had crummy people in my life, and I thought maybe that's why I'm drinking a lot. But when it became a physical compulsion, that's when I realized I had a physical problem, a physiological problem. And I tried everything, and nothing worked. You try praying away, it doesn't work. Rehab doesn't work. I mean, 99.9% of the people out there, none of the current treatments work. So when I discovered this Sinclair method, I called Ben Bella, publisher, and I found Dr. Roy Scappa, who wrote The Cure for Alcoholism, and I said, this is absolutely staggeringly miraculous. The first time I took one naltrexone, I was cured, literally one time. What do I do to help you promote this treatment? Because people are dying. 75,000 people in the U.S. alone every year, 500 alcohol-related deaths every week. It's the #1 killer of people between the ages of 16 and 24. Alcohol-related accidents is the #1 killer in America. It's a staggeringly expensive disease, costs us billions of dollars around the world. There's just millions of people dying every year, and it's something that can be cured so quickly and so easily and inexpensively, and with the FDA-approved drug. As a matter of fact, to digress, the EU 2 days ago just passed a law that nalmefene, which is another form of naltrexone, I say naltrexone, nalmefene is actually safer for the liver, so people that are advanced stages of alcoholism can take it because it's not processed through the liver. It's also an opiate blocker, just like naltrexone, and they just approved it with drinking. You have to drink with the opiate blocker in order to create pharmacological extinction. The EU just came out with that 2 days ago, and that is the Sinclair method. That's something that we've been trying for years to get them to put that in the pamphlet of the drug, saying you have to drink it, otherwise you can't create the pharmacological extinction in the brain. So that's very exciting. Anyway, I called Dr. Scappa. I said, what can I do to help you? And he said, write a book. And that's how the whole thing started. And I would feel remiss in my actions as a human being, as a compassionate person, as somebody who cares about human life, if I did not write this book. It was not a chance for me to talk about my Hollywood lifestyle, but of course the publishers want those stories in there. They want to know who you slept with and what who you worked with and who's a jerk and who's not. The main reason to write this book was to promote the Sinclair method, period. That's what this book is about. I'm 47 years old. I have no right to write an autobiography unless I have something important to say, which is the Sinclair method. It works. Try it. Spread the word. Tell people about it. Everybody I meet at a cocktail party or a regular party or a lunch or a social event or a work event, everybody knows an alcoholic. Everybody knows or somebody who's abusing alcohol. But nobody knows about the Sinclair method. So it just became this part in my side. And I just didn't know what else to do. So I wrote the book, and now I'm really devoting a huge portion of my life and energy and time and money to the word and to help save lives. And in the short time that this book has been released, it was released on November 6th. Even Morgan Buchanan, my writing partner, and I have been promoting it since May. It's sort of like having a baby. March, I think we started actually. We've been social networking and promoting the book for months and months. it's been out only since November 6th, and since it's come out, I have already had about 35 people start this inquiry method, and with a 100% success rate. Now, normally the rate is about 80% success, long-term success rate. It's the most successful treatment for alcoholism in the world, period. It can claim a 78% success rate, long-term success rate. So that nothing else can. There's no other treatment in the world that can claim that. So it's been proven. There's been hundreds of clinical trials. It's going to come to America at some point. It'll be in Australia at some point. It'll be all over the world at some point. It's just I'm trying to make it at some point come a lot faster.
Yes. Yeah, you're obviously really passionate about it.
You think? It just enrages me. It enrages me that the media hasn't picked up on it. The media doesn't have me on shows, that I haven't been in mainstream magazines, that they just don't find the subject of alcoholism or addiction or anything interesting enough to write about it, where there's people dropping like flies, and it's costing countries, every single country in the world has devastatingly high rates of alcoholism. In Africa, it's, I think, the #1 killer next to AIDS. I mean, it's insane. Alcoholism and AIDS. I mean, it's just because people have this idea that it's a moral issue. It's not. It's a physiological, it's a learned behavior. People don't want to call it a disease, fine. Call it a learned behavior. It is a learned behavior, and there's nothing you can do to reverse the brain neurologically. The physiological aspect of it cannot be erased through prayer or rehab. It just doesn't work. 5% of the people do react positively because in the world, in the population, 5 to 8% of people can quit anything by themselves. That's the truth. They can quit cigarettes, they can quit heroin, they can quit binge eating, they can stop being an anorexic on their own. That's about 8% of the population. Well, that's about the number of success rate that you get with rehab and AA. So do the math. Think about it.
Yeah.
The rest of the people are basically screwed because nobody's telling you about the Sinclair method, and I don't think that's fair. I wasted 8 years of my life looking for something. And had I known about the Sinclair method, I would have it 8 years back. And that really, really pisses me off. It makes me very angry. And there's people out there right now suffering, and I don't want them to suffer. So yes, I'm passionate about it. I'm very passionate about it.
One of the things that really struck me with Babylon Confidential is that you've shared your story, but then you've actually entrusted someone else to ghostwrite your life story. How difficult was that?
Well, I wouldn't say that it was ghostwritten. First of all, we're partners, and we typed about 100 hours, and I told my story, and I supplied Morgan with all the stuff that I had written. So it's not like I walked away and here, write the book. We did it together.
Yes.
But certainly, I do not know structure. I am not a trained writer. I'm more of a storyteller. So I needed somebody that put it into book format for me. Somebody who could a logical arc in the story, somebody who knew structure. Morgan knows everything about writing. It's his life, and he's a wonderful writer, and he's easy to work with. I was working with somebody prior to Morgan, and it didn't work out. I then suggested Morgan to my publisher, and you know, we trusted me enough to say, if you believe in him, then we'll believe in him. Which was great because Morgan wasn't really published at that point, and so they took a chance. But I knew that he could do it, and I knew that together we could come up with something really great. I think he did an outstanding job. It's a beautifully written book, and it has my voice. Yes. Because he didn't change anything. He would record me speaking and not try and make me sound like somebody else. It was interesting in the final editing process how one of the editors at Ben kept trying to change things around, like my pattern of speech or the words that I used. And both Morgan and I were like, no, that's how she speaks. You know, she does use English expressions, or she does, Briticisms, or she does do this, or she does this. And I said, no, this is my voice, and you can't change it because it's my story. I'm not going to have somebody write with their voice. And Morgan utterly respected that.
Yeah, there's very much a sense of, it's kind of like you're sitting down at the kitchen table sharing a coffee and you're talking to the reader. That's what a lot of people say. They say it's like you're in a living room just
telling your story. And I think that's what makes it an easy read and a fast read. I think that makes it a sort of enjoyable read, because it just flows very quickly, even though there is an interesting arc starting out at the bottom and then working your way back. You know, it still has a beginning, middle, and an end, but it's got these two lovely bookmarks, you know, holding it all together. And I think that the combination of tragedy mixed in with comedy, because that's what life is. I mean, life is not all bad and it's not all good. You know, it's interesting because you can't please all the people all the time, and some people will say, oh, it's got too much name dropping in it, or oh, it's got too much Hollywood in it. Well, sorry, folks. I didn't work with a lot of stars in my life. I worked with movie stars. You know, you know, that's just, and also publishers want that. Do you think I would have named the book Babylon Confidential? Really? No. They make you use the name of the series you're the most famous for. Hello? You know, Melissa Gilbert's book is called Tales from the Prairie. Hello? You know, it's like, you don't have a lot of choice. If I would have written the book and left out all the names and not put any photos in there, the publisher wouldn't be happy. You know, so you have to realize that when they're writing the book, there are other people that we have to please other than just the audience. You know, it's hard to please everybody. Some people wrote in and said, well, there's really not much about Babylon 5. I'm like, what do you mean? There's like 2 chapters of Babylon 5. Babylon 5 was one job I did within thousands of jobs I've done. I mean, you know, and I had a life before Babylon 5. I was 27 when I got that job. There's 27 years to fill up before that. Like I said, you can't please all the people all the time. Some people think it's too sad. Some people think there's not enough about addiction or about childhood or about this. So the majority is, you know, we've had mostly 5-star reviews. We've had changed people's lives. We've helped people. We've actually saved lives. Getting emails from people saying, wow, you saved my brother's life, or you saved my life. I mean, that's the whole point of this journey. The whole point of the journey is to get the word out of the Sinclair method, and to also help people who are going through their own problems, whether it's an eating disorder or whether it's a drug addiction or anything. You read this book and you realize you're not alone. You're not alone. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and there are options other than what maybe is not working for you. And that's the message of the book. The message is hope. And that's the most important thing was I wanted to get across the message that everybody is fallible. You can play a hero on TV. People may think you're tough and strong and funny. You can still be fallible. Things can happen to you. Nobody's perfect. And nobody should judge you. You should love yourself, and you should just investigate and try to find the answer that's going to make you better. And that, you know, if you're open about it, nobody turned their back on me. There wasn't one fan that said, wow, I'm really disappointed Claudia Christian was an alcoholic. I'm really, really disappointed that she had a drinking problem. Nobody's ever said that to me. They're happy for me. They're proud of me for coming out. They're encouraging me to talk about it. They've been the most supportive group of people I think I could ever imagine. Believe me, I was scared. I was very, very, very scared. It's still embarrassing at times when people bring it up. And, you know, luckily I can say I was an alcoholic, not I am an alcoholic. You know, that's the beauty. That's the thing I always wanted to be able to say I was. The thing of the past. And you can only achieve that with the Sinclair method. And that reverses alcoholism. So, you know, yeah, but there were times when I definitely, you're self-conscious about it. It's embarrassing, let's face it. It is. It's embarrassing. But if you don't talk about it, then you're not going to reach people. So you got to swallow your false pride and get on with it and start saving lives. You know, that's the most important thing.
The sense I got from reading Babylon Confidential is that it really is targeted at a very broad audience with the point, the purpose of reaching addicts and addicts' families with your message. And on the way through, you're telling your life story, including about Babylon 5, but there's got to be more stories that you can tell about your work in the science fiction genre. Are you thinking about writing a companion volume focusing on the the sci-fi and fantasy that you've done?
That's an interesting question. I did write My Life with Freaks and Geeks, which was sort of a thin little novelette that that's back in the day when I didn't realize how many words a book should be. I'm serious. And so I was asked by Yard Dog Press, my dear friend Selena Rose, said, well, why don't you write a book about your experiences at conventions and things like that? I said, okay, that sounds great. So I wrote it, and I turned it in, and she never said, she padded out a little bit. You know, I didn't realize it would be so short, so they just ended up putting a bunch of pictures in the book, and, you know, some people said, well, it's really funny, but it's really short, you know. So I wrote that in about 3 days, and that was my ode to the fans, sort of a experience at the convention and what it felt like to work on Babylon 5. But I've always fiddled around with the idea of writing a book for people who want to be an actor or actress. Mm-hmm. And I've also writing a book really about behind the scenes stuff. It's a fine line to tread, though, because I have a lot of experience, obviously, so I could certainly teach a neophyte, a newcomer, a lot about behavior and things like that. But on the other hand, I don't think the fans would really appreciate that. So, you know, it's a hard thing to decide on. I am also noodling around with the idea of doing a fictional book starring an actress who's from the sci-fi series. So that would be able to, you know, put a lot of funny situations that I know about. But then again, nobody can really do it better than the Mervyn Stone books. So Nev Fountain's books, they're hilarious, and they all take place in the sci-fi world and conventions. It's hard. Yeah, I definitely think there is room for another book about this subject. Definitely. You know, the other aspect of it, though, is that I don't really have an eidetic memory like Ivanova did. So there are gaps. You have to do a lot of research for everything that happened on every set. Morgan Buchanan, your co-writer, mentioned that there was some awesome photos that you couldn't include in Babylon Confidential, like being carried around a convention by 10 Klingons. What are some of your favorite convention stories? Well, definitely not the one where I was shot by a tribble, but
and again, you can read the book about that one.
I think I've always been a very willing guest. So I'm always the one that they say, we have this, you know, thing where we kidnap people. That was the Klingon thing. They kidnap you and they tie you up in a jail. And I'm always the go-to person because people know that I'm pretty good about doing just about anything. I'm the one that they come to and they say, we are auctioning off coffee with one of the actresses. Will you do it? Of course I will. You know, it's just, I believe. That's why I threw my own convention, Claudia Christian, back, what was it, 2 summers ago in London. It's because I really was disgusted by the way fans are treated at conventions nowadays. They're told that they can't photograph the actors and actresses. They're told that they can't shake your hand, they can't videotape you, they can't. I mean, it's like, come on, what, you're spending hundreds of dollars to go to a convention to meet the people you admire. Well, then you should be able to meet them and chat to them for a second. I see actors who, you know, no photos, and then they hold their head, and they sign the photo, and they won't even personalize it, and they do this, and then they hand it to you. I'm like, well, why are you even here? If you're not going to be nice to the people, why are you even here? It doesn't take that much time to look at somebody and say, hi, what's your name? Oh, Mary. Would you like this person with you, Mary? Gee, was that so hard? You know, it's just radically unfair. And so I think most of my positive experiences at conventions and my good memories are just meeting people who come up and say, you know, I had a fellow that came up to me at Dragon Con and he said, I want you to know that my mother and I bonded over watching Babylon 5, and she just died. And when we were in hospital, we were watching her favorite episodes of Babylon 5 as she died. And I mean, how can you not be choked up and moved by that? Mm-hmm. They bonded as son and mother through the show. They would sit next to each other on the couch, watch it, and then talk about it all night. I mean, to touch somebody's life that way, those are the memories I bring with me. those are the people that I carry with me. And those are the things that touch me.
Mm-hmm. Really powerful. And it's a real testimony to the depth of the characters that you developed and to Joe Straczynski's writing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
With all these photos that you have that couldn't be included in the book, where can fans find them?
Well, the reason, first of all, why we could not include them, I don't know if Morgan mentioned it to you, is because you're allowed to publish photos of famous people, but not famous people, you need their written permission to use their photo. And how am I supposed to know who's behind the Klingon mask? So, you know, if they can come after you and say, I didn't want my photo in there or whatever, even though I'm sure they wouldn't have, they would have been thrilled, but, or not, I don't know. So that's why we couldn't have pictures. It was people who were famous and that I couldn't get their permission to use. You can probably find a lot of those photos on Facebook and on people who go to conventions have posted a ton of pictures of themselves with actors and actresses from genre series. A lot of people have posted things on, sorry, my mom. So I would recommend Facebook. I have ClaudiaChristian.net, which has a lot of pictures on there and a sort of Flickr account. My Facebook fan page has a ton of photos on it, and other people post stuff on their things. And also, just if you Google Claudia Christian and then you go to images, there's tons of images there. Might even be some conventions that I wish to forget, because there were some where we were all pretty buzzed. Used to be the Babylon 5 crew is sort of known for their partying ability.
IMDb shows a few projects coming up. What projects have you already worked on that we haven't seen yet, and what projects are you about to work on in the future?
I did the bonus material for Skyrim, which I believe came out. I did a movie called Watercolor Postcards, but I think they're changing the title. That should be coming out next year. I'm supposed to be doing a film called Red, but I don't know if they have their financing together. I did, what else? I can't remember. I don't want to bring up IMDb right now because it'll block the screen. Yeah, I can't really remember. I know I did a couple of movies this year, but they always change the titles, or sometimes they don't come out, you know, or they go straight to DVD. I did a bunch of games this year.
There's quite a list on IMDb.
Yeah, there is quite a list. Strange Frame is a film that I did an animated feature that showed at PopCon here in Los Angeles a few months ago. That has a lot of sci-fi and genre actors in it. Claudia Black, George K. A whole bunch of people are in that. I have a little part in that. It's going to be on Netflix in February. Mm-hmm. It's available. It's called Strange Frame. And it was done by this great fellow from Hawaii, G.B. Hallam. Can't remember who else. Sorry, I need a refresher course in my career.
But IMDb is the place to go.
And Morgan Grant Buchanan and I are, we just sold the first of the Wolf Empire books before. So we just signed a contract on that. And that is a sci-fi military book. Our protagonist is a young kick-ass girl who has her own Facebook page. Yes. She has her own Facebook page. You can see some of the artwork there from the graphic novel, not from the book, obviously. So that will be out in 2014, I believe. That's on their slate for 2014. So working on that.
Morgan spoke a little bit about that, but for those people who haven't seen Morgan's interview, do you want to just enlarge on that a bit?
There's information like online somewhere about it. If not, we're going to have to update that. it starts when Akala is 16 years old. It's in a role that never fell. And she's a Legionnaire, goes through some great trials and tribulations. There's some wonderful aliens. I don't know how much I can really give away. There's different worlds, but imagine all humans are under the Roman Empire, so that's what makes it sort of different than most sci-fi futuristic novels. Mm-hmm. So you've got Roman history there. She's an extraordinarily stubborn, tough character, reminiscent of somebody else I know. There's some great relationships. The relationship with her father is a very, very interesting, complex one. She has her adversaries. There's a couple of enemies in the first book that are pretty tough, and a new race of aliens that I happen to have great affinity for, the Chitauri. I don't know how much I'm allowed to give away, so I'm going to stop talking. You know.
Do you
tell about everything?
Pardon?
No one's going to want to read it. I tell them everything.
True. There's a strong science fiction fan base here in Melbourne. When do you think you're going to make it back to a convention here?
Well, I would have come to the one just recently, but there was a series of misunderstandings between the promoter and various actors and actresses. So that was a little disappointing. If I get invited, I'll come. I haven't been invited. So it's up to you Aussies to get the people who throw the conventions to invite the actors and actresses you want to see.
Well, I'll be sure to post the link to this interview to a few key people. Is there anything else you'd like to say to fans before we wrap up?
Thank you for your love and support. That's the most important thing. And they've been extraordinary. The fans have been unbelievably supportive. We sold out our first run of the book prior to even the release date, based 100%, I would say, on science fiction fans, genre fans, social media, and their energy and action. And I deeply appreciate it, and I know Morgan deeply appreciates it. Mm-hmm. And I huge shout out to Morgan, because he's the most extraordinary writer, best person anybody could have in their life when they're trying to form a beautifully written book. He's a great man, a great friend, and somebody that I look forward to working with a lot in the future. And yeah, I've just been blessed. I've got this incredible group of people that are supportive through pretty much everything I've done in my life, including I come out with CDs, and I'm not even a singer. They're just wonderful. Sci-fi fans rock. They're the best. They're the best.
Well, thank you very much for talking to Dark Matter.
Thank you very much for having me.